Hey, what's going on, sports fans? Happy start of the NBA playoffs. I am excited for these bad boy games to start in about 36 minutes from right now. But in the meantime, we got to rock some baseball, which is still wildly in play for Sports Nation.
Yeah, man. I know you love the NBA playoffs, but even me, man, I'll take MLB over MLB playoffs. I had a couple buddies over this weekend, and I was watching baseball, and they both commented like, "How can you just watch baseball all day?" And I'm like, I love it.
Because he's a giant dark. Not just kidding. I love baseball too. You know that. Go check out Overlay, guys. I got a couple of entries into the $2.50 progressive one, trying to win a few extra bucks so I can get into that $22 one and take a stab at the $20,000 jackpot for anybody who goes 12-0. Keep entering this thing because if you never finish in the top 10% 20 times in a row, it's called the Slump Buster Challenge. Overlay will refund the entirety of your buy-ins. Plus, you get an opportunity to try to win $20,000, which I don't care how rich you are. That'd be a hell of a payday.
Yeah, amen.
I'm into that one, guys. We'll talk about MLB later when we can. They got a lot of contests up there. Just talking to the guys over there recently. We got football coming up, a lot to be excited about. That all being said, we got to talk about DK here for a minute, and let's switch over to that.
Let's get it.
All right, guys. I want to reiterate, in honor of the NBA playoffs starting, I got an extra special sale up on the website right now. I guess technically it's not on the website. What it is, an annual membership is typically $200. So if you think about a monthly membership, 30 times 12 is 360. Annual is a really good deal at 200. For today and tomorrow, annual memberships will get a $60 reimbursement. Otherwise, if you want to pay manually at the 140 price, the Venmo and PayPal addresses below. That's all three sports all year. It's one of the best deals you can get from us.
Can't beat it.
All right, guys. NFL only sale too is also up there. $80 for the full NFL season. Day passes for $5, all available at the website. Subscribe to the station if you're new to it. Thumbs up is appreciated. Let's talk about some of the pitching tonight on what I think would be considered not a prime pitching slate, but I know there's a couple guys you like, and one of them is going to be Ross Stripling. Look, is he perfect play at 8K? No, he's not perfect, but he gets a nice opponent tonight in the Seattle Mariners that will give him the opportunity to get some strikeouts. Home team tonight, and I don't think because the Dodgers are so good, let's not forget that LA at night is a great place to pitch.
Yeah, great place to pitch here. As far as the whole slate goes, it's not an awful pitching slate, and there are a bunch of guys that we like. There's just no one to love on this slate. There's no one that you look at and you're like, I need to roster. Stripling falls into that like a lot, however you want to put it, type category. There's a lot to like about him here. He's been good this year. He's under 8K. He's got a great matchup in a great park. He's going to get quite a bit of ownership, and it makes sense. I mean, there's not a lot not to like here.
Look, I think we respect Seattle a little bit more than the masses, but let's not pretend like they're any good, right? This is a bad baseball team.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next up, Eric Hosmer, which this is one of the things you miss if you just play DFS and don't really follow baseball. He really tried to reinvent himself in the offseason. He really worked on lifting the ball. So Hosmer is a guy that was touted as being like an up and coming stud, but it's been like a decade now. He's just never really turned into that powerhouse first baseman, just a solid hitter, but more of a singles guy. In a lot of ways, what he's doing this year, and I assure you it will not work the exact same way because what Yelich did 2 years ago was amazing. But remember when Yelich went to Milwaukee, you were worried about him hitting home runs, and he worked on lifting, not just being a good hitter, but getting lift on the ball. Hosmer, probably not to the same type of stratosphere, but has really worked on getting under the ball this year, and it's showing so far.
Yeah, it's really showing. Having one of the best starts to the season he's ever had, specifically power-wise, driving the ball all over the field. Homered again yesterday. He looks good. You watch his at-bats, he looks good. And again, this is a guy that you talked about, came in with a lot of pedigree. I mean, he's been solid. He won a World Series with Kansas City. He's definitely overpaid, but he's going to be in the middle of this lineup. If he can continue to hit like this, I mean, this team is going to be a lot better because he more or less has been a hole in their lineup.
Yeah, he was always a guy that he was supposed to come in and be a perennial all-star, right? Like that was the expectations for him. And he was just a fine hitter, right? Like you get a nice little slap single guy, get you some doubles, hit the occasional home run. But the power, like the new part of his swing to get the lift under it's been pretty overwhelming to start the year.
So when I misspoke when I said hole in the lineup because, yeah, he's been solid. Definitely not the guy that they signed him, they wanted him to be. He just hasn't had that power, hits the ball on the ground way too much, and that's what he's worked on. Really getting lift on the ball, as you mentioned, and putting the ball in the air.
All right, next up, Kevin Pallar. So this is just a solid play top to bottom, and I think when you're looking at him tonight, we respect Jordan Montgomery. Jordan Montgomery can sling the baseball out there, but he's not Garrett Cole, right? Like, we're definitely not scared to pull a one-off like Kevin Pallar at only 3,100, double digits in 4 or 5. He's always been a very good hitter against lefties. And another thing I was listening to and picking up on a Boston broadcast not that long ago, Pallar's had some really nice runs and moments throughout his career, but they were really trying to focus on his consistency as a hitter.
I like it, man. He's almost like playing for the trade deadline. I figure Boston will probably deal him because they're not playing for anything. They're one of the worst teams in baseball. Actually, I think they are the worst team in baseball record-wise, which is pretty sad.
That pitching staff is so bad.
Despite that, though, like, Pallar's having a real good year. He's been the Red Sox most consistent hitter. You check the game log, there's a reason he's hitting .313. He started off the year really hot, then cooled down, is now hot again. You mentioned it, double digits in 4 or 5. Homered last night. He's just crazy cheap, man. So, like, there are a couple, not expensive pitchers, but if you want to roster a couple of the higher end pitchers tonight, like, you can always look at a guy like this.
I got another one for you coming up.
What'd you say?
I said, go ahead. No, keep going.
A $3,100 guy leading off like this, as you mentioned, that hits lefties well. It's almost like a free square.
Yeah, and this is a guy who can always stick in the lineup because of his elite defense too.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we talked about, you mentioned Pallar and rostering high-priced pitchers. Like, it's going to be easy today. I got another guy coming up next who's dirt cheap, but we want to talk about Eloy Jimenez. This is a guy that I know you've been talking about him on and off for well over a year now. He's got big power, 17 plus in 4 or 5. And don't let it fool you. Last year, Matthew Boyd got into a role as a DFS darling because of the high strikeouts. But he's not a good pitcher. Like, he's an average pitcher, right? And he just happens to give up a lot of home runs as well.
He gives up a lot of home runs. So, I mean, listen, Jimenez, the guy that they got in the Jose Quintana deal, is starting to really, prove his worth in this lineup. The lineup yesterday was kind of quiet until all of a sudden they absolutely went off. 4 innings, 4 homers, I think, in the 5th inning, capped by Jimenez, big shot as the last one. Red hot right now, seeing the ball really well. Good numbers off Matthew Boyd. I mean, I like him a lot here. I think the White Sox are firmly in play as a stack, but even if you don't want to stack them, I mean, this is one for me, like, what's not to like here? Even if you don't play him, like, there isn't much you don't like about him here.
He's an emerging star, too. Like, there is some young talent on the White Sox. I know you're one of the people who was very hyped about them coming into the year, and you're clearly not alone on that because they do have some young talent. It's probably not their time quite yet, but I think this is a great season for the White Sox with Bencana, Jimenez, Roberts, just to kind of, like, knock a little bit of this dust off, get some of this mojo going, and I really like him even more moving into next season, and Jimenez is going to be a big part of that. Big power.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'm going to go right back to where I was yesterday. So I talked about Adam Eaton yesterday. He never made the lineup because of the lefty-on-lefty matchup. He should easily make the lineup today, and I almost wanted to bring him up again because he got even cheaper, and I'm afraid you might miss out on him. He's 2,600. This is a good hitter in a much better lineup now that they got one of the game's better players back in Juan Soto. Your boy Tuki Toussaint's got an ERA of over 7 this year. I know you have no problem taking a couple pieces against him. Should absolutely be back in the lineup today. And there ain't a lot of places better to hit than right between Trey Turner and Mr. Juan Soto himself.
No, I almost brought him up too, but realized I think we brought him up yesterday or the day before. I mean,
yesterday.
It's funny because you brought up the comparison to Michael Brantley from earlier in the year, and I remember Brantley, the same thing happened. He fell below like 2,800 or something like that, and it was crazy. And you brought up the same point, like people might forget about him. Yeah, I mean, Washington stack is in play, but even if you don't want to stack them, like, this is a solid just cocktail piece, all formats.
Like, it's going to be easy to get 2 of your favorite pitchers today and then still get guys like Jimenez and maybe a more expensive player because we do have the Adam Eatons and the Kevin Pallars of the world at your disposal. Like you said, the Washington stack is in play. Tuki Toussaint is definitely a hit or miss. When his stuff's moving, he's not bad, but it doesn't always move the way he wants it to.
Yeah, exactly.
So, all right, guys, that's baseball for today. We'll hit you up with some members only and some overlay later. Best of luck. Have fun watching the NBA playoffs today if you have that opportunity.
Thanks, guys.